Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're talking about some of the best decks from outside of YCS Brazil. YCS Brazil took place over the weekend, in case you were unaware. Quite exciting stuff. There was actually also, shout out to my state of Michigan, there was a regional in Michigan. So a great weekend to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Um, this article is by Renren, who has added a profile picture. Shout out to Renren. This is on YGOProDeck.com. This is Mathmech Ignister. Ignister. It was ran by Ikaro Ka. It's Ikaro Kau. Um, no comment. And this actually got top 8 at YCS Brazil. An interesting take on Mathmex as we see the Nisters also being ran in here. Um, this is kind of just like Cyber's toolbox to an extent. You're running 44 cards, so you can kind of get away with. They changed the structure of this site, and I like it. I usually like change, but I like this change. Um, it really looks more like Ignister Mathmech, though. I mean, because that's the thing. Like, this isn't really. There's 6 Mathmech cards, right? And like 15 or so, I'd count them. Around like a little more than 15. There's more Ignister cards than there are at Mathmech. So it's really more Adagnister Mathmech than it is Mathmech Adagnister, but the two archetypes, because they're both Cybers, obviously do synergize with each other. And unfortunately for Salomon Great, these do appear to be the best two Cybers archetypes right now. But let's get to the deck profiles. We are talking about 3 copies of Mathmech Circular, obviously. One Mathmech Subtraction, one Sigma, one Addition. That's actually it for the Mathmech monsters. Like I said, just a small package. And then we're running, of course, one green, one purple, one of the this is the attack negator. I thought so. Yeah, one of the earth, one of the water, and then 3 red, 3 yellow. Um, I mean, this is pretty standard, right? I mean, I think you do usually run 2 of these, 2 of these, and maybe 2 of these in a pure Adonixer deck. Um, yeah, I think that's the ratio, and then these are 2 3 ofs because they're just absolutely fantastic. It's probably your best opener. But all of these are really solid. And what's really great about the Attic Nister stuff, the MathMech stuff, and that's really what you're trying to do. If you're combining 2 decks, um, the goal that you're trying to do is you're going to essentially have 3 different play strings every time. The play string when you draw one engine, the play string when you draw another engine, the play string when you draw them both, right? Now, the play string when you don't draw either, that's in everything, right? Sprite has a play string when it doesn't draw any of its cards and it just draws a bunch of hand traps, right? So that's not really not every deck has that option, right? So the MathMech stuff does good things by itself. The Adagnister stuff does good things by itself, and the synergized version of the two of them is absolutely fantastic. And because we're running a 44 card deck, we're less likely to end up bumping into a bunch of hand traps, even though we are running what appears to me to be 13 hand traps. Excuse me, 16 hand traps. So, yeah, I really like the way this deck is structured. 44 cards. It just seems to be the vibe right now. When you're running a lot of one-ofs that you don't want to see, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 one-ofs. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, because the trap card is a one-of. 13 one-ofs, you don't really want to see them. You build a little bit of a bigger deck. That'll actually help you with consistency. It's pretty wild. That's kind of the style, though, that a lot of people are using for their Yu-Gi-Oh decks. As we're talking about 2 copies of Nibiru, 3 Ash, 3 Ghost Ogre, 3 DD Crow, 3 Veiler. Yeah, I think these are the best 5 hand traps, other than Imperm. I keep forgetting Imperm's down there. Like, yeah, if I had to rank the hand traps, for me it'd go Ash, Imperm, um, Nibiru, DD Crow, Veiler, Ogre. Now, Gamma is in there, floating around somewhere. But Gamma's pretty interesting. It is interesting we don't see Gamma in the main. Usually with Sign of Minings, we do see Gamma in the main. But nonetheless, you are running a lot of monsters. I don't really love Gamma as a card. You're also running Small World, and there's no main decked Gamma. Is there a side decked Gamma? There is no side decked Gamma. Interesting. But I don't necessarily hate that. I don't. You will not find Gamma on any of my deck profiles. I don't usually like the card, but that's a minor tangent we don't need to get into right now. 3 copies of Silent Mining, 1 copy of FA Igniting Spirit, 1 copy of Meet You, 1 copy of Reborn, 1 copy of Land. Only 1 copy of Land. I guess you do only need one, and it is searchable. Yeah. Triple Small World because it's a fantastic card, absolutely fantastic card, especially in this deck. I mean, look at this. Like just for example, this card can go to that card. Yep, because they're both Cybers and nothing else in common. This card can go to this card. 1500, 1500, 300, 400. Yep, because they're both Cybers and nothing else. Different level. It's just absolutely. Wait, is it level 2? Wait, hold up. Level. The level. So we can't do this card to this card because they're both level 4s and both Cybers. So that's interesting. But no, other than that, though, like it's Small World's an absolutely fantastic card in this deck. You bundle a bunch of levels, a bunch of attributes, but Cybers. It's always, and that's the thing about Cybers. Small World seems to work the best in Cybers because Cybers just does have seemingly access to a lot of different cards. Like Parallel Exceed. I'm surprised there's no Parallel Exceed in here. But Parallel Exceed is always a fantastic Small World target because there's very few level 8 Cybers monsters that also see play. I think this is a level 8. Yep. And then 3 Imperm, like I've mentioned like 4 times now. And then, of course, the Mathmech Trap card, which is still a very solid card. That's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, one of the Agnes Synchro monsters, one of this card, hopefully draw the out. 1 Link Spider, 1 Dark Templar, 2 copies of Dark Infant, 1 Cyber's Wicked, double Splash Mage, hell yeah. Can I swear? 1 of this Mathmech, 1 of the good Math. No, I'm just kidding. They're both good. This one's fine. I don't usually see this card though. This card's usually the one that gets made. Interestingly enough. 1 Update Jammer for access code, 1 Transcode Talker for access code, 1 Decode Talker Heat Soul, because it's Decode Talker Heat Soul. It's a fantastic card. In the side deck, we are running 2 copies of Ghost Bell, another fantastic hand trap, double Cosmic Cyclone, for what should be obvious, triple Dark Ruler No More, which we are seeing a lot of people main deck because of Sprite, because of tier elements, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster for what should be obvious, but also for back row heavy decks. Also, we are running Red Reboot, and 1 copy of Evenly Matched. I'm trying to think how Evenly Matched functions against Mystic Mine. I feel like it actually isn't that bad. Right, because if you evenly matched and don't summon a monster, Mystic Mine gets destroyed. Triple Rivalry of the Warlords, because it's a Cypress deck, and we can do that, and Floodgates are cool. So that was 8th place, Mathmech Addict-Nister. Whenever I do a tournament breakdown, I try to do, I mean, I will like to showcase the first place deck, but I try to showcase like unique decks because I don't know how many Sprite and tier element. This one's so different than the other ones though. It's like no, it's not. No, it's not. It's still the same. We know what you're running. We know what you're doing. It's just still Sprite deck. So I try to do some more unique takes like this one. This article was also done by Ren. Shout out to Ren working overtime. This was Dinomorphia. This was ran by Felipe Uros. Placement was top 32 at YCS Brazil. And I've been talking about Dinomorphia a lot on the channel because a lot of the Dinomorphia cards are pretty cheap. Now, this is an $800 deck, but I'm assuming that's because of the hand traps. Because the first 5 cards I saw, like this is a $15 card, and this is a $10 card. Okay, so it's like a $10 card. So they're both like $10 cards. But I would assume just the deck itself is fine. Hey, look, Gamma. So 3 copies of Nibiru, 3 copies of D-Shifter, 3 copies of Theresia. I think that's how you say that. 3 copies of 1 copy, excuse me, of Deeplos. 45 card deck, by the way. 2 copies of Lilith. 1 driver for the 3 Gammas, 3 Ogres, 3 Ash, 3 Veilers. Really maximizing on our hand traps here. I thought for sure we were going to see a Desires. This looks like a really good deck to run Desires in. but maybe not. I can't particularly think of the reason why not. Cause yeah, maybe I don't know something. I don't know. They got top 32. I didn't, so I trust their deck building over my own. Because there are 3 pot of prosperity, 1 pot of duality, 3 imperm. And that's the thing. Like, just because it works for this person doesn't mean it would work for me, and just because it works for me doesn't mean it would work for that person. That's like the biggest thing, right? Like I really like Pot of Desires in decks where I can run Pot of Desires, and this looks like a deck I could run. You could run Pot of Desires. There's a lot of searching ability, so there's a lot of situations where you could activate a Pot of Desires and it just draws into 2 hand traps, and that's usually what we're trying to do with Pot of Desires, right? But it could banish this. It could banish this. There are a few one-ofs in this deck. That would be not the greatest if they got banished. Um, 3 copies of Imperm. 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20 hand traps on the dot. 3 copies of Dynamorphia Domain, 3 copies of Dynamorphia Frenzy, 3 copies of Trap Trick. Actually, just talking about this card in the Market Watch. This card does come up. It does come up, and it did just get a reprint. So be on the lookout for that reprint. The reprint's like literally pennies. 3 copies of Brute, 2 copies of Brute, excuse me, 1 copy of Sonic, and 2 copies of Alert. So it does seem like this deck was really just running more. I'm surprised there's no Mystic Mine. It feels like Mystic Mine also would work really well in this deck. But maybe we're trying to summon out too many fusion monsters, so not really about that life. And maybe we just want our opponent to actually play the game. So that we are not running Mystic Mine. And it could also be in the side deck too. But it looks like they're really functioning. This deck functions more on getting to the trap cards, stunning our opponent, slowing the game way down. And I talk about this a lot when we talk about Rogue. And Dynamorphia would definitely fit under that category. When you're playing a Rogue deck, you either need the deck to go at you need to add an engine, right? Like Adventure, for example. The Adventure Brave engine. That'll help the deck go faster. Or and this is what we usually see works out more for stun decks. You need to add a lot of stun cards, so the game slows a lot more down, so you can end up playing against Dynamorphia. Now, another thing I don't really know how this deck worked was in time. I think you have to be very careful with playing out duels when you're playing a stun deck and a stun Dynamorphia deck, because Dynamorphia, if you're trying to do your combos and your time in the round, you might just lose because of that. And in a stun version of the deck, where the duels will probably last a little bit longer, you could bump into that problem, I feel like, a little bit more. But once again, top 32, right? That doesn't happen on accident at a YCS ever. So something here, maybe this is how Dynamorphia will be built going forward, is more of a stun-based deck, which I don't hate, right? 3 copies of Dynamorphia Rexturn, which is actually a really good card. I know like the half a life points thing is weird, but it's actually a really solid card. 3 copies of Kentry. Like, it is a good archetype. It is a good archetype. I just don't like the restriction, but it is a really good archetype. I wouldn't say really good, but it is a good archetype. It's right in between good and really good. 1 copy of Stealth Borgia, 1 Dark, 1 Selene, 1 Axis Code Talker, 1 Omega, because we can run it. 1 number 60, because we can run it. No Zeus, Lagia, though, and Dolka. 1 Psychic and Punisher. I feel like I've just been commenting, like, why is there no this card? Why is there no this card? Why is there no that card? But in a lot of my decks, if I can run Zeus, I would like, do you really need 3 of this or 3 of that? Like, are you more likely to drop the 3rd copy of this than play this card and drop Zeus on top of it? I mean, this detaches 2 materials, and one of these this also detaches 2 materials. So maybe that's why we're not running Zeus, is because we'd rather just get full value out of our Dolkas. I could see that. Okay, I could see that. I kind of talked myself back out of Zeus. But Scythe and Punisher is also another solid card. Um, that I guess this deck has access to. That's crazy. Wait. Because who's the tuner? Is it just the hand traps? Because there are a lot of tuners in this deck. Yeah, there's no there's no. I thought it was a Dynamorphia tuner. There's no Dynamorphia tuners, but there actually are a lot of tuners in the deck. Because this requires, yep, a level 8 and a level 3, and there's 3, 6, 9 normal summonable tuners, and then Gamma is also a tuner. So there's actually are a lot of tuners, and there's no Halka Fibrex too. But I don't really think you'd run Halka Fibrex in more of a stun-based deck. For the side deck, the third D shifters here, 2 DD Crows, 1 Scythe. But we're not running Dagda, we're running 3 copies of Sanctum, 3 copies of Judgment, 2 Ferret Flames, God card, and 3 Anti-Spell Frig, which is another card that just got reprinted that you guys should take a look at picking up. This was a top 32 deck profile by Felipe, and my minor comments aside, this is a very solid deck. Like I was just talking about, like, no Mystic Mine, no Desires, and no Zeus, which, if you're not running Mystic Mine, that's fine. I just don't know why Stun wouldn't run Mystic Mine. But Desires I could see not running, and Zeus I could see not running. But Mystic Mine I'm not 100% sure of, because the winner of YCS Brazil, and this article once again was by Renren, $120 deck. This was piloted by Juano Paulo Lima. It's got first place, 40 card deck. You love to see it, to quote DB Grinder. I mean, this was the final step, right? This was the final step in evolution, right? For Mystic Mine. I do want to say this because I follow different Yu-Gi tubers and some professional Yu-Gi-Oh players on Twitter, and a lot of them were saying, like, if you're still complaining about mine at this point, like, why, you're just bad, you should be running main deckable outs to it. It's like, bro, it won YCS Brazil. Like, I don't know. Like, like there's only so much you can do around really hard to play cards, right? Like, there is an out to Imperial Order. There is an out to Vanity's Emptiness. There is an out to Royal Oppression. But that doesn't mean that those cards should be legal. Like, just because you can Mystical Space Typhoon your opponent's Royal Oppression, or I activate Royal Oppression, I activate Twister. By paying 500 life points, I pop your Royal Oppression. Like, just because that's an interaction that takes place doesn't mean that Royal Oppression's okay. Doesn't mean that Vanity's Emptiness is okay. Doesn't mean that Imperial Order's okay. And it doesn't mean that Mystic Mine is okay. But 1 copy of Card of Demise, 3 copies of Calderon of the Old Man. When this card is activated, place 1 counter on it. Once per turn, you standby phase, place 1 counter on this card. You gain 500 for each counter, or you deflect 300. Really? That's it. Okay. 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Why? Oh, I guess Dark Ruler No More, activate Mystic Mine. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Because if you activate Mystic Mine, and they have the Toad, then they negate the Toad, take your Mystic Mine, and that's not. And then they negate using Toad and take your Mystic Mine. Instead, though, if you activate Dark Ruler No More, when you activate Mystic Mine, they literally just cannot do anything. Unless, of course, they have back row, right? They have Twister set. For those who don't know, I keep saying Twister. I'm just going to leave this card up because it's the Mystic Mine out. This card, just watch out for this card. You know what I mean? When I say that. Not Twin Twisters. No, no, no. That's bad people run Twin Twisters. Don't forget that. I'm talking about... Let's just go to the TCG player for Twister. Strike of Neos. Here we go. Here we go, team. We drew the out. Pay 5 for life points, trade face a magic or trap card on the field. Look at that. There it is in the flesh. We're going to look at all versions of Twister. Oh, bro, look at this. Look at this. You can get this one for 5 cents. What's the best version? Ultra rare. Really? There's no alties on this? The ultra rare is the best version? Alright. So you can get max rarity versions of Twister for $1. That's the out. 3 Demise of the Land, so we can get Mystic Mine. Terraforming is not even in here. Like, I'm not even going to run Terraforming. 1 Day of Peace. Very, like, this is only played in burn cards. It's a very inappropriately named card. Pot of Duality. This card, I talk about this card when I do deck profiles for Floanderies. If this card can be ran in a deck, it gets ran. It's an absolutely fantastic card, but the restriction is insane. But if the deck doesn't care about summoning, I don't even think there's a monster in this deck. No, I don't know why it took me that long to figure that out. 3 Extrav, 1 Upstart Goblin, which is weird, actually. Why would you run Upstart in a burn deck? 3 Dark Bribes. You know why we're running Dark Bribes? Because our opponent can draw as much as they'd like. We don't care. We're playing Mystic Mine. Activate Harpies. Chain. Dark Bribe. 3 Gozen Match. 3 Rivalry of the Warlords. 1 Metaverse. Triple Ojama Duo. Shout out to Ojama. Making its way onto not only top 32ing at a YCS, but also winning. For those who don't know what Ojama Duo does, you should know what Trio does, because that Ojama Trio has been ran in Chain Burn a lot. I'll read both the cards, though, in case you haven't read it in a while. But Triple Ojama Duo, special summon 2 Ojama tokens to your opponent's side of the field. These tokens cannot be attributed for a tribute summon, and each time one is destroyed, the controller takes 300. During the player's turn, except the turn card starts to value, you banish 2 special summon again. Or from your deck. Oh, I thought it said special summon them on that field again. They are beasts, which is interesting. And they're light. So if you have Rivalry flipped face up, they can only summon beasts. Which shout out to Tri Brigade. So 3 copies of Ojama Trio, which is kind of the same thing, except for the it doesn't banish to add 2 Ojamas, but we don't really care because we're not playing the Ojamas. And then 3 Solemn Judgment, for a similar reason why Dark Bribe's in here. Dark Bribe is also just like inherently like Sprite Starter Chain Dark Bribe, right? Like it is also a decent card. It has seen play before. It just kind of fell out of the meta because drawing cards really bad. But actually in this deck, it's really good because a lot of times Mystic Mind decks win via deck out. I apologize. I shouldn't have been laughing. 3 copies of DDD Wave Ability King. Can't make this card. 3 copies of Elemental Hero Nebula Neos. Can't make this card. 3 copies of Koalo Koala. That's actually a good card, if you've ever read the effect. 3 copies of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. And 3 copies of Arcana Extra Joker. I shouldn't be laughing. Maybe there's a way that they make it in the side deck. Nope. I was like, maybe they're running Sea Koala and Tree Otter in the side deck. I don't know. 3 copies of Lava Golem, 1 D-Fissure, no Macrocosmos. I feel like Macrocosmos is better than D-Fissure, but D-Fissure is a spell. 1 Harpies, because why not? One there it is. There it is. I was asking where it was at. There, we found it. 3 copies of Curse of the Forbidden Seal, because it counters this. I mean, that's pretty solid value. If you activate Mystic Mine, your opponent activates Harpies, and you chain Curse of the Forbidden Seal, and then they discard another card just to get rid of your Mystic Mine, that's actually a plus for you. Because their Harpies is gone, so you can just activate another Mystic Mine. And then you can just, whatever spell they discarded, it's gone too. There can only be 1, which actually does that counter this deck? Because you're trying to summon a bunch of tokens. I don't know. I don't know. Who cares? 3 copies of Unending Nightmare. Um, what is this for? Because you could argue, well, it's for the Mystic Mind Mirror, but I feel like if your opponent drops Mystic Mind if your opponent drops Mystic Mind first while you're playing this deck, you wouldn't care, right? Because you're not using it, you're not summoning any monsters at all. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, Yu-Gi-Oh! 2022. And the not just the hero we deserve, but the hero we need right now. Make sure you guys click that like button to show your support for the channel. Subscribe for even more content, but most importantly of all, have a good day.